Hello and welcome back to the Peaceful Wood Turner. Today's project is a poplar wand for magical uses. I am not particularly a follower of the Wiccan and pagan religion. However, I know a lot of people who are, and there's some wonderful people. They often use things like wands in their rituals as ways of helping them pray and connect with the Creator. And I thought this would be an interesting project to work on because it's something that's round and it's something that's spiritual and it really just kind of speaks to me. So I thought I'd give it a try to making a wand. This wand is made out of poplar, which is in divination known for having regenerative qualities and also being masculine, which the wand is also a symbol of masculinity. So I'm going to start by putting a handle at this end. I'm going to mark off at about 4 inches because that seems like pretty decent size for holding. And then I'm also going to add a couple of just decorative parts, going at about a half inch. I think when I cut those down they're going to be kind of pretty. And then I'm just going to work on tapering this down to something close to a fine point. Obviously I can't get down to a pencil thin point, but that's not what we want anyway. We want something that's going to be a little bit softer at the end. So basically just trimming this down a little bit here so that it lays out the handle. This is already 3/4 inch diameter. I think that'll work really well. And then a couple of decorative beads here. And then just bringing this down to a fine taper. I'm going to be working at about 1400 RPM. I'm going to start with my parting tool just to kind of get my lines right. Okay, I start with my pencil tool first. Now I'm going to use my spindle master. If I'm not liking the spindle master for that, I'm going to switch to the skew. Let's take a look, see how we're coming along. It's got some character to it, but I'm not entirely happy. I've decided I want a little bit more texture and style to this handle, so I've decided to do a wire inlay. And in order to do that, I've marked off a 3-inch section right here on the handle where I'm going to take out a little bit just so that I can be able to put in the inlay. So, pretty well lined up here. Let's just mark it off. I've had some other ideas, so you can see some old markings on the handle. And those should disappear pretty quickly. I'm going to start with the parting tool, so I can lay out exactly where my wire is going to go, my inlay. And now, I'm going to go along with my roughing gouge. I wonder if the spindle master would be better for this. I'm going to go along with the roughing gouge. I've reset my tool rest slightly, and I'm going to mark off the final length. And I want the section from my decorative part here down to the tip to be about 8 inches. So I'm just going to mark that off now so I know where I'm working. And that should leave me some nice space at the end to protect me and give me some stability while I'm turning this. Now, we often think of a wand as being an incredibly small, tight, pointy thing, almost pencil thin, which would definitely apply to something like a conductor's wand. But this is not a wand for that kind of purpose, so I need it to have a nice graceful curve as it comes down. Okay, we're coming along really nicely here. Got some nice beads turned in there, and I just need to smooth out the shaft itself. I'm going to start off going back over it, this time with my spindle master. Here we go. That's looking a lot better. Just about time for some sanding. Alright, time to start working on sanding the wand. I'm going to move my tool rest out of the way. And this is my first time trying to do any kind of sanding like this. I'm going to start with a 120 grit. I know it's a little bit aggressive for what we're working with here, but I think this should work well. I'm going to give it a try anyway. Let's see what happens. Good start, still some rough spots over here. Looks like that came down a lot more than I expected it over there. Alright, we'll have to do some trimming up on that. Let's see if we can get into some of these recesses. It's coming out nicely. There's still some tool marks, which I'm kind of upset about. And it looks like I have to do a little bit more work up here, top end of the handle, to just kind of bring things in right. So I have to fix my recess on my handle. This is the downside of using an aggressive sandpaper and being a little bit off center. You live and learn, right? Alright, that looks pretty good. I'm just going to try to make some minor adjustments up here. Alright, that's going to be pretty nice. So I'm going to get back to work on some of the sanding. I'm going to go with a finer grit now. Okay, I'm going to continue my sanding. I want to get something a little bit smoother going here, so I've got a 320 grit sandpaper on my palm sander. This will hopefully give us a couple different directions. Alright, the next step is to get set up for my wire inlay. Okay, I've set up my drill press stand with a 3/32 bit, and I've set it so that the stop will have the bit go about halfway through my project, and I'm going to just make my small hole. Okay, my work is back in my lathe, and I've got my hole for my wire. I put a really tight hook on the end of the wire to try to get it as tight as I can, and it's obviously going to need a little bit of tapping after I get this all done. So I finished my wrap, and I just made a small hole, and I just got the wire into there. So the last thing I'm going to do is just go over this again with a nice fine sandpaper and just kind of clean up any of these rough spots and get an even tone to this copper. I've got my sanding done. Everything's looking pretty smooth. It's not exactly as I wanted it, but it's pretty close. I'm going to use my spindle gouge now to just take down this end a little bit, get it a little closer to the finished product. I have to be very careful at this point because there's not a whole lot of grip from anything. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to move my tool rest now to the other end. And that's a horrible, horrible sound. I think I need to oil that bed. What do you think? Alright, so I've moved my tool rest to the other end. I'm just going to move you now. So here we have the tip of the wand. And I'm going to go in here with the skew. Bring it down a little bit before I part it off. It's very close to being completely off now. Drop my speed and just take it off. Excellent. So I like how the tip has turned out so far. I'm just going to sand it off a little bit. And then my bigger problem is going to be this area in the back. I'm going to have to work a lot of this by hand to try to take this off because unfortunately I don't have any kind of chuck that'll actually let me grab anything. Still pretty much just a beginner set. So let's see what we can do with this. Okay, I've set up my work on a piece of sacrificial board here so that I can work on it a little bit. I've got my chisel, rather large for the job, but I think we should be able to make it work. And I'm just going to start by just trying to take off some of these pieces that I see are obviously cracked. Once I get these loose pieces off, I'm just going to take this down with a saw and sand it off. May not even need the saw, otherwise this is coming apart. So that looks pretty good. I think that'll actually sand off pretty nicely. So I'm going to just hand sand that now. Time for a little elbow grease. Coming out pretty nice. I'm going to switch to a finer grit of sandpaper and I'm going to work the end and the tip. So I've got a finer grit now, it's a 320. Really liking how that's looking. Kind of hard to see. I'm turning it with one hand as I move the sandpaper back and forth on the tip. And there we are, sanded, cleaned up, ready for finish.